So we're gonna look at a passage tonight, Genesis 12. I preached this years ago here. Who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody, High Tower, talking about, Pastor, you preach some of them old sermons. I might get saved again. I said, well, I doubt it, but we'll try. Watch this. Genesis 12. It says, verse 5, Abram took his wife Sarah and nephew Lot, all the wealth and all the slaves they had acquired in Haran, and here it is, and they started out for the land of Canaan. And they started out, land of Canaan. Tell your neighbor, say, neighbor, start and watch God. You may be seated. All right, Lord, speak to us quick, fast, in a hurry. Watch this. Start and watch God. Probably one of the most important things to an effective sermon, in my estimation, is the first sentence. I say that only because I want you to grasp how important this first sentence is to me, and why it's so important, Nicole, when it comes to your grasping tonight's sermon. Here it is. Inactivity is the enemy to progress. Okay? I want you to get this. I want you to get this, because if you get this, you get the rest of the sermon. Inactivity is the enemy to progress. Now, some of y'all need to tweet it. Some of y'all need to Facebook it. You need to send it viral. Because, and here's why. Because if you grasp this, a lot of things that you have been, watch this, envying others about, you will be too engaged in the pursuit of purpose to be distracted by other folks' success. Y'all hear? So I'm going to say it again, Brother Perry, because I think that you're a man that's tried to live this out in the antithesis. Here it is. Inactivity is the enemy to progress. To sit idly by and watch others live out purpose is dangerous. Because in the end, you ready, Brian? This going to bless some of you like you who are going after purpose and destiny. Because in the end, watch this, Juliana. Maintenance is eventual failure. I need you to get this. Anything that you simply preserve will eventually harden to have no use except to observe it. At the end of the day, cement begins as something that can be formed into anything. But if it sits too long, it hardens. And the only way to use it again, you have to tear it up. But it will never be capable of being used in that form. Here's probably the difference thing for many of you in this room. You ready? Is you've spent too much of your life watching and waiting for stuff to turn and then being frustrated that it did not turn. And here's why. Because God does not honor people who are watchers when he's called you to be a worker. God does not honor people who are watchers, Z, when he's called you to be a walker. So as you are spending your life, Felicia, watching and waiting, God is becoming exasperated because he did not create you to live in stagnation. That's why, Nessa, you got to be careful who you allow to sit in your space, because sometimes the folk in your life become so weighty until they illegitimize healthy growth and healthy progress. I wake up every day assured of one thing, This is a day that God's given me, RJ. I will never get it back, so I need to do something with it. I need to grow. I need to expand. That's why every day I ask my babies when they come home from school, what did you learn today? What did you get out of your day? And if they simply tell us, well, nothing, then I am disturbed, because that means that you've taken a portion of your day and done nothing to improve yourself. Don't allow the morbidacy of the world and its predictability to rob and rape you of the spontaneity and the eventual explosive and exponential growth that God has created you to experience. At some point, you got to make a decision that you are not going to be miserable. At some point, you got to make a decision that even if it ain't working, you're going to still work it. You got to make a decision that even if you don't have allies, at least you got an almighty, and you're going to stay the course. You got to stay energized and focused and excited, because the enemy enjoys watching you depressed and miserable. He loves watching you getting up, putting on your clothes, going to the same place and doing the same thing. But the devil is a lie. I have made up my mind that if I go to the same place, it's going to be a different place by the time I leave it, because I am assigned by God to go and do great things. Thing I love about God, you ready? Is he's created you for greatness, and tonight he's calling you to that infamous next level. God is ready, man. He is so ready. He's ready to fulfill potential in you. God is ready. He is so ready. He's so ready until he's calling you out tonight and demanding much more of your lives. God is ready. He is so ready. God is so ready until tonight he is requiring you to embrace the new and the exciting places that will require growth. God is ready. He's so ready. He's so ready until he's trying to get you to break up with old tendencies and stop going back to old relationships with folk that are actually going to damage your future. Here's what I got to help you understand. Some of you keep entertaining something that you didn't choose then. Jesus. Okay, you missed it. If you didn't choose it then, why do you think it's improved now? You have bumped your head when you entertained something from your past that didn't pass your initial test. Some point in your life, you got to make a decision. I'm not going to stay stagnant. God is ready, but here's what's key, Sister Perry. He's only ready based upon your passionate desire to start. This has always been amazing for me. The whole idea, watch this, Ken and April, that God actually blesses in the starting. The frustration of God, I believe, is he can't get people to start. You can't fail because you don't ever start. You don't ever start trying to lose the weight in some meaningful way. You don't ever start trying to develop yourself so you can qualify for something extraordinary. You don't ever start the business, so you don't even start the paperwork. You don't even start getting the federal tax ID number. You don't start anything. You don't start reading the book, so you never finish the book. You don't start a healthy relationship, so you never end up with one. You don't start. And here's what's deep. The moment you start, that's where God begins to function. Watch this. Starting denotes that you agree with God. Starting denotes that there's more to come. Starting denotes that God has so much more for you, until just by starting, you are declaring to the world that your life is not under the authority to the limits that have been pre-described by the forces of evil. Starting says that God's got the last word, so you're going to take the first step. Woo! And so when you start, when you begin to just move in the direction of the will of God, God nicely meets you in the start. He meets you when you take the first step. He meets you when you start cleaning up your life. He meets you when you start trying to do the right thing. He meets you when you go to the first day of class. He meets you. He meets you. But you got to say, God, when am I going to start? You're going to start when you get sick of not starting. Here it is. And Abram started. And he initiated. And he pursued. This is probably going to be a very personal word for me because I'm in a season of my life where I cannot miss another day. I'm 49. I have been given amazing opportunities. And even today, my wife will tell you, I have been in aggressive mode, laying out the vision for Save Our Sons. And in the vision of laying it out, I got major, Juliana, when I tell you major doors open today, doors I can't tell you about yet, but I just understand in 6 months, we're going to see a national movement that's going to take this nation. And God has shown me that if you just start. Many of us have missed subtle shifts because we chose stagnation over the uncertainty of starting. See, Brian, you will never fail because you always try. And here's what's scary. In the trying, you discover possibilities. Nothing is birthed in your watching. It is only birthed in your trying. Oh, I'm trying to move some of you into a different place because some of you are trying to get out of debt, but you ain't started paying off nothing. Some of you are trying to get your house, but you ain't started saving nothing. Some of you are trying to get out of a place, but you ain't started packing nothing. So it ain't going to change because you have figured out how to come to church in that foolishness and never participate in your own deliverance. Yeah, that's seeding stuff right there. Watch this. And the text says, and Abram started. Question, then I move quickly. What does God give you when you start? Angelica, he gives you 3 things. I'll be done. His first thing is, the first thing God gives you is he gives you a promise. Now, here's the genius of the promise. You ready? The genius of the promise is that it extends you beyond you while exposing you to the you can be that you're presently not. All right, well, I want to say it again. I want you to get this. The genius of the promise is that it extends you beyond you while exposing you to the you that you can be that you're presently not. Okay, I'm going to say it again. The genius of the promise is that it extends you beyond you while exposing you to the you can be that you're presently not. Which means that the moment God communicates a promise to you, he's actually about to make you hate your life. Because he ain't going to give you a promise that gives you permission to stay. Woo, Jesus. The promise he's going to give you is going to extend you so far beyond your present context until you are going to be forced to have to give birth in a different location because your present positioning is not conducive to what you're pregnant with. See, the frustration that many of you are having is you're trying to hold on to stuff that's already proven that it's irrelevant. You're trying to hold on to something that no longer matters. You're trying to make something somehow relevant that is no longer relevant. And God says, I want to give you a promise. I want to expand your view, Q. Misha, I want to show you something that is so beyond the sphere of where you presently are until you will be forced every day to wake up and say, I am here, but this is not the best place for me. He wants you to never be comfortable in your present environment, because the anointing, the oil, the glory that's over your life is so extraordinary, and yet it is visionary, which means you got to learn, Fred, how to live in the future while you're living in the present, so you don't go back to your past. You got to learn how to wake up every day in tomorrow while you're in today. And while folk are trying to drag you back to who you used to be, you're telling them jokers, I love you, but I don't love that. And if you need that, I don't need that, because that is a reminder of the John that was not happy. That's the John that God could only use for a minute, but he could not get back room glory. Y'all missed it, because for some of you, you look good publicly, but you're miserable privately. So God sent me here to tell you that I'm getting ready to repair every area of your life by giving you a promise that's so big until it will motivate you to clean up your life. The promises of God are never a prisoner to the stuff you don't want to resolve. So he's going to give you a promise that extends beyond you while exposing you to the you can be that you're presently not. And here's what's crazy. He's going to buy your championship jacket, and you ain't even made the team yet. He's going to point out the color of your wedding gown, and you ain't even been on a date. He's going to show you the color coordination of your 5-bedroom house, and you still living in a 1-bedroom apartment. I need somebody to get this. You're going to see a car ride past you, and instead of hating on them, you're going to say, when I get mine, and you sitting at the bus stop. You're going to be crazy enough on a Saturday to go out to a mosquito-infested piece of dead property with an old dilapidated building and a no-good trailer and pray like it's the place of the cathedral. God is going to blow your mind, because he's going to have you start seeing stuff nobody else sees and celebrating stuff nobody else can celebrate. And here's what's crazy. That's why some of you are worshipers, because you ain't worshiping based upon where you are. You worshiping based upon what you believe God's getting ready to do. And that's why sometimes, Brian, when people say shut up and sit down, what they're really saying is, I'm sick of you making me feel bad, because for some reason you feel like dancing when I know you ain't got a pot and a window to throw it out of. But when you know God's got his hand on your life, you will give him a praise on your way to the blessing. I need you to tell your neighbor, neighbor, you ain't seen nothing yet. Oh, I know you think you know me. I know you're looking at me and saying, ain't nothing to them, but baby, if you give me one more season, if you thought I was bad, I need somebody to holler. God is a... Come on, be seated. We got to get out of here. Woo! And see, Brother Perry and Sister Dolores, the thing I love, Bert, about Jesus is Jesus kept talking about resurrection while admitting cross. I'm going to take you somewhere, Juliana, but here it is. At some point, BJ, you got to so buy in to the promise till you leave, till you start. This church has got to really believe we're supposed to go to Dunn Avenue. You got to believe that you're supposed to be happy, at peace with your life, prosperous and productive. And then when he begins to speak the promise, you got to start buying in to the promise. One of our members, she just stepped out. Sister Wine made an interesting point today as we talked to Sister Angelica about the Quincy House. She made this interesting point. The one said, Pastor, we got to become so excited about the vision till you don't have to talk about it. See, we're still in the season where you need me to cheerlead you. And see, for my ego, it feels good that I can stand up and say something to my church and they'll do it. But that ain't how vision gets done. Vision gets done because folk hear it and then start working it without having to keep coming back to me for permission. Are y'all here? Here's the first thing that you need to get. God wants to give you a promise. And watch this, Shanetta. God wants to give you a promise. Watch this, Skip. That is so big till it pushes you to the next thing. Here it is. When God gives you permission to start, he gives you a promise. You ready, Tiki? He gives you a process. Now, here's what's amazing. Watch this. The process legitimizes the promise, but the promise becomes the motivation for the process. The promise, okay, Larry has spent how many hours in the studio for this project? Hundreds of hours. If he got frustrated in the middle of the process, he would have quit. But the creative genius of Larry saw a completed work in an incomplete season. Come on, you got to get this. This is why the enemy, watch this, this is key. This is why the enemy spends so much time trying to clutter your life. Because he knows the more negatives or toxics he put in your space. God, it's good to be in this church because I teach you, I challenge you, I grow you. All of the toxics he try to put in your space, Casey, is designed to do this, Dove, to make you a Mandela ineffective while staying in position. Well, one of the great things the enemy love to do is to make me a one-dimensional pastor by forcing me into a box where my only concern is to preach a sermon and get my check, which would negate my authenticity. So a part of what God does is he puts you, Tiffany, in processes. The processes are to perfect you. The perfecting is sometimes requiring pain that brings you to either public humiliation or private exasperation. This pain is so deep till sometimes you don't know whether you're coming or going. But a part, Z, of what he's doing is making you not want some stuff because the taste has become too bitter. I need about 5 of y'all to admit that the pain has made you start becoming more discriminatory about what you want in your life, because after you went through that, you told yourself, I never want to go through that again. And that wasn't a statement of resignation. That was actually a declaration of maturity. Because if you ever decide that don't fit you no more, then you begin to shift your life and structure your life so the promise fits in your life while expanding your life. So your life is never defined by what you're going through. It's defined by what God has declared. Preach, Pastor. At some point in your life, you got to love the process even if you hate the details. The woman who gets pregnant hates morning sickness. She hates the swelling, but she loves the baby. Because the baby is big enough to get through the morning sickness and the swelling, because the mother understands that if I can make it to the end of the pregnancy, what I will hold will be worth what I had to go through. Watch this. This process then has to do with pain. But here's the other thing. I'm going to mess some of y'all up. The process also, watch this, Brian, and this is really frustrating. Ready, Keandra? The process also maximizes problems. Because some stuff don't bother you till the promise starts dealing with you. The promise was, and you're going to be a great nation. And the problem is, I'm in an infertile relationship. Now, how am I going to be a nation when I can't even get to a child? And so sometimes God exposes that the deficiencies are actually a setup for a miracle. But until it becomes a problem, you don't know there's power in the situation. God will give you a promise that in a process will birth a problem. It'll force you into insufficiency. God will tell you you need $1 million and you ain't even got $5. God will give you a promise so big until all of a sudden you couldn't even pass the 5th grade. Now he's telling you to go get a PhD. And you sit here going, wait a minute, God, do you know all of my situations and circumstances? And God say, yeah, I know them. I'm helping to expose them. But the problem ain't really a problem unless you start worshiping the problem. Because I'm only using the problem to get you to a promoted state of prosperity by showing you that a problem ain't got power unless you give it power. It only has power in the way you manage it. The problem is actually exposing the very thing that God's going to use to get you to the next level. So I gave you a wife that couldn't have a baby so that when she has a baby, can't nobody get credit but me. I need you to get this because the next level of your life will not be the explainable. Watch this, Brian. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. He puts you in this process. This process is connected to this process. In it is a problem. In it, there's pain. And I want to help you. And the pain and the problem now becomes exacerbated by one reality. He won't let you keep what you took in there. Because it's the reason you got to go through the process instead of going straight to the promise. He couldn't release you straight to the promise. Because if he released you straight to the promise, you got too much baggage. You got some generational stuff. You got some pain, you got some rejection, you got some bad decisions, you got some relationships you ain't got no business dealing with, you got to get folk back. Because watch this, if he promotes you now, you're going to actually parade the promotion around in front of folk that said you wouldn't be nothing. So God said, I got to humble you so when I do bless you, you can actually go bless the folk that tried to break you. I can't trust you with that till I get this out of you. Because some of y'all want the blessing at the expense of the blesser. So like the verse we read this morning in prayer, God got to make you deal with Penanad before you can get to your Samuel. He got to put some people in your face that make you feel like a failure so that one day you'll end up on your face. He got to put them in your face so you'll end up on your face. He got to put them in your face so you'll end up on your face. Y'all missed it. He got to put them in your face so you'll end up. He got to put them in your face so you, that's where some of y'all are. He put some people, baby, in your face so you will end up on your face. And on your face, you started cutting deals. If you get me out of this, I'll give it all back to you. And God said, that's what I've been trying to get you to. Because if I had given it to you on your feet, you would have never have appreciated being on your face. You needed somebody in your face to get you on your face so you could walk my purpose. All right, I'm taking too long. Watch this. Watch this. This process releases a problem and pain. And watch this. And this is the tough part. Tarsha, here's the tough part. Here's the tough part, RJ. In order to stretch you fully, he's going to have to disconnect you from loyalties that makes it easy to sin. See, you keep folk around that will protect your sin, but eventually force God to expose your lack of integrity. So God says to this dude, leave. I mean, literally, the Hebrew word is divorce. He says, break up permanently and never go. Stop. You listen, get nervous when you got an appetite for something that ain't supposed to be a need anymore, when he's filled the need with something in your present that got future attached to it. You need to start checking yourself when you want an old guy or an old girl and you got a new one in your life. Man, anybody that's dating anybody that's still calling yesterday, get them out of your space now, because if they bold enough to call yesterday in your today, that means they're going to be with yesterday in your tomorrow. Y'all missed all of it. You need to make sure folk clean it all up before they start talking about riding with you. I don't need a ride or die chick that'll jump out at the next stoplight. I don't need a brother that say, I'm with you, boo, to the end, until I look out the rearview mirror and see yesterday coming up beside me, preach pastor. At some point, you got to disconnect. It's in verse 1. He said, leave. He said, leave. Leave. Move on. And here's what's tough. Here's what's tough. Here's what's tough. And if anybody think I'm talking about you, I am. See, that's the joy of having your pastor. I ain't no hired gun. I'm hired gun, but I ain't no hired gun. Watch this. Here's the tough thing. Abram, watch this. Major revelation, RJ. Major revelation. Hey, Alexis. Hey. Major revelation. You ready? Huge revelation, y'all. Huge revelation. Michelle, huge revelation. In chapter 11, when Abram's dad was still alive, they were on their way to Canaan. The dad got so drained because he lost a son on the way till they parked halfway, and halfway became for his dad all the way. So his dad is now dead, and he's still in his daddy's place. Here's the revelation, baby. Here's the revelation, Sharon. Here's the revelation, Cotton. Stop creating idols out of generational tendencies that didn't work for your parents. If your mama and your daddy ain't happy, don't be her. If your daddy ain't respectful of women, don't be him. If there's some things or situations in your life that you know is not healthy, and listen, you can have education, you can have money, but I've learned one thing, that stuff will be nothing but a Band-Aid. If there's cancer in your body, a Band-Aid ain't gonna do it. You need to start cutting some stuff out of your life, and this is where it becomes tough, because some of the stuff that you need to cut out, you have actually seen it work for people while working against them. Your mama got everything she wants, but she made your daddy miserable. She got the car, she got the house, but she made him miserable. And you saw him miserable. Your daddy has this submissive woman in front of everybody, but she hates him when she's not with anybody. And she's bitter and she's hurt, and every now and then she snaps. You need to start looking at your life from a critical spiritual perspective and raising some tough questions. I may love my mama, I may love my daddy, but if they are not healthy, I can't use them as my example. It don't mean you don't love them. That this is a tough lesson, because everybody wants to glamorize their parents. Everybody wants to say their parents are the best that's ever been. But the reality is that for some of you in here, God has put you in this church, or has put you in different settings. Why? Because he had to put you in a different environment from the people that you used to idolize, from the big brother and the big cousins and the homeboys you thought were important, because you ain't going to be a monogamous husband. Why? Because you were raised by a bunch of men who always played on women. You ain't going to ever be a woman that can love a man, because you easily went to negative places. But God sent me here to tell you that when I get ready to release you, that process, it's going to sanctify you. It's going to clean you out. It's going to make you walk away. It's going to require you to restructure. Here's a major revelation, then I'm going to move. You know what's deep? It's going to also tell you, require you to be different. So that sets you up to be misunderstood, rejected, and criticized. Some of you have been told you go there too much. They mean more to you than we do. Some of you have been made to feel guilty for not staying in the dysfunction. Some of you have made some conscious decisions that is not the environment you want to raise your children in. It's your uncles, but they are too nasty to each other. And you don't want your holy child with beautiful ears to hear the trashiness that's through. Preach, Pastor. Oh my God, I ain't talking to everybody. And I know some of you are going to get mad and say, you telling me don't be around my family? I ain't telling you that. What I am telling you is that if you can stomach that stuff, go do you, boo. But there's about 5 of y'all in here that say, you know what, I love them, but there are certain environments I can't put myself in, because every time I'm in that environment, I am forced to be a person I don't like. Here's the revelation, because some of you become defensive and you try to defend why you're better. Here's the sad thing. If people can't celebrate you being better knowing where you came from, then they sure ain't going to be good about where you getting ready to go. But I got good news. He'll give you partners in your process. He'll make folk work with you that are assigned to help you birth your destiny. See, the amazing thing was that she was infertile, but she was his partner. And I think the thing I love about God, here it is, he may disconnect you from some things, but eventually he will attach you to someone who will be comfortable helping you produce the promise. Oh, God, I feel like preaching here. Man, that's why some of you need to get excited, because you wouldn't sit here to this church just to watch me. God actually picked you up, Brother Perry, and took you here. God made some of y'all move from way across the country. You thought you were coming here for a job. Let me mess you up, boo-boo. God sent you here to do this work. And listen, he gave you a job to get you here, but he gave you assignment to keep you here. You'll catch it after a while. And some of y'all need to get excited, because he's about to hook you up with some partners that are just as motivated as you are. Instead of you always carrying the weight, he's about to burden somebody with your burden. He's about to inspire somebody with your vision. He's about to make somebody throw themselves into your dream, and they don't want nothing. They just want to see it happen. I need you to take your neighbor's hand, shake it, and say, I got some partners on the way.